You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Sorry. More on that later, but
You're just laughing at UW fans?
yes, actually.
Okay.
I was going to say more on that later since I actually read the 2-minute drill questions before I read them this time. I read them before I read them. Mm-hmm. And so there's more on that later, but
I read them before.
Sorry.
I read them before you reading them before you reading them.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is The Scrimmage.
I'm pretty much just going to do that random points throughout the day.
That's Daniel Hargrove.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
This is
Couldn't have happened to a better group.
Forewarning, this is not a Huskies podcast.
No. It's not.
No, I'm the only neutral party. I'm the only neutral party here.
Anyway. Thank you to our sponsors. Hopefully they're not UW fans. Spivey Realty Group and the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. Oh, crud.
I think
Kevin went to UW.
Yeah, Kevin's a UW
I might have
guy.
to tone it down a bit.
Nah.
I'm not going to sacrifice my journalistic integrity.
Two funny parts about that.
Right.
Journalistic and
Integrity.
integrity.
Wow. Shut up. Let's get it going with the 2-minute drill.
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball around. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye, on 1, 3.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
Pete Carroll
Yeah?
is out
What?
as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Daniel, did this news surprise you?
Yes, actually, I did not think that he would get fired. I didn't think that this ownership was the type of ownership to make decisions like that. I thought they were much more the lay back and just kind of let things happen. And I didn't think that they would take command and fire Pete Carroll, who is beloved by so many fans. Bill Bellichick is out as head coach of the New England Patriots. Justin, did this news surprise you?
It can only surprise you so much when people are talking about the rumors all year from week 5 that Bill Belichick might be gone at the end of the season. It still feels surprising. This guy is widely regarded as the greatest coach in NFL history.
Yep.
And I don't even really know if it's that close to get down to the next guy. Certainly far and away the greatest coach of the modern era.
Yeah.
And the idea that he has spoiled his fan base so badly that when they lose the greatest quarterback of all time, have a couple of bad years, all of a sudden you need an overhaul. You need a new coach in. To me, that's absolutely crazy, and it makes me hate Boston sports fans even more.
Ooh.
Which I didn't think was possible, but it is. Nick Saban announced his retirement this week as head coach of Alabama and quickly was replaced by UW coach Kalen DeBoer. Daniel, what's your reaction to all of this? Any thoughts on Saban? Or
I'm sorry, just a second. Okay. Yeah, Nick Saban was a good coach.
What
And
about loyalty?
Kalen DeBoer is a really good coach. And why would he have any reason to be loyal? He's from South Dakota.
I'm not going to watch college football anymore.
Oh, no. Oh, the humanity. Oh, man. That was just, the timing was beautiful. In men's college hoops, 5 of the top 6 teams in the nation lost this week, including previously undefeated number 2 Houston, which lost twice. Justin, is this season shaping up to be as chaotic as last year?
These teams are not just losing, they're losing multiple times. They're losing to unranked teams.
Nice.
This has been absolute chaos. You're going to see a top 20 that's full of teams with 3 losses. It's crazy. Nobody's been able to be clearly the best team for any amount of time, and there's probably 25 teams who could win the national title. March is going to be mad.
Ness?
Yes.
Sorry.
feel like that was the line, and then
Go
it was like
Cougs.
March is gonna be mad, and then brr, like it was a good line to just be like brr. And the buzzer came late.
Sorry.
I'm looking at the Pac-12 stats or records.
Yeah.
So Oregon's 13-3, and Arizona is 12-4.
I think Arizona's regarded as the best team of the bunch there,
Oh, really? Because
but
they just lost to the Cougars.
lost to WSU. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's crazy.
So one could argue that means that the Cougars are better than Arizona.
One could argue that.
I remember when I was a small child.
You want to hear how good the Beavers are?
Not very good.
No, they're pretty bad.
Hey, look,
Yeah.
they're putting their effort into baseball, I think.
We only get to choose one, and it was men's soccer this year. We're 9-7. We're over 500.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, they must have scheduled some real slappies during the non-league schedule. I'm glad we're starting to talk about college basketball, though, because then I can get your insights and have a shot at beating you in our bracket challenge.
Yeah, I don't like it when you do that.
Daniel's
I don't like it when you beat me in our bracket challenge.
The only thing I know about college basketball is what Justin's told me.
And then you pick a random 5-12 that he didn't, and
Yeah, I mean,
attach your
that's-
bandwagon to somebody and hope for the best.
All you really need is like you need to be right about like two things in March Madness.
Yep.
And if one of them is someone that you'd pick to the Elite Eight that most people didn't, that can kind of be your thing.
Yep. Normally, my winning brackets have just been garbage except for the title.
Yes.
That's my general strategy.
Well, and last year the Final Four was so random that there
Yeah.
was almost nobody who
Yep.
had it right.
Yep.
So that was a total up for grabs one. I know this year there are a handful of teams that are kind of regarded as the top tier, but they all keep losing. Like every time you think that they're establishing themselves as the best team, they just keep losing. So I don't know. I think it's going to be crazy. The Tar Heels are good. They're number 7 right now, but I think when tomorrow's rankings come out, they're going to probably move up to 4.
Okay.
So that's what I've got my eye on.
Kentucky's at 6.
They lost this week too.
Tennessee's at 5.
They also lost this week.
UConn's at 4.
They're going to be number 1. They're the only top 6 team that didn't lose this week.
So Purdue lost.
Yeah.
Houston, Kansas. Dang.
Kansas lost to an unranked team. A couple of those teams lost to unranked teams.
Why does it say here in this ranking Duke is tied with Marquette at 11? I've never seen that in a ranking before.
I think it
What
happens
ranking am I looking
every
at?
once in
AP
a
top
while.
25. That's
Because
way
it
odd.
goes by voting, but there's so many voters that it's unusual for
Gotcha.
teams to have the same amount of votes.
That makes sense. Man, Pac-12 is garbage.
Is that crackling in the headphones because of my phone?
Probably.
Is that going out
Maybe it's
over
because of my phone.
the YouTubes?
Wait, so the Pac-12 only has one team
The Pac-12 only has one team.
in the top 25.
Oh, is it just Arizona?
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Gonzaga's 23rd. What can we expect from the Bulldogs this year?
They don't have a top level playmaker. They don't have like a big time guy. So I feel like they're a good team, but they lost to UW. They've already lost some games that they were not expected to lose. So
Gotcha.
definitely not one of the best Gonzaga teams we've seen.
Weird. Do you think NIL's doing this?
Well, it helps to level the playing field, I think.
Yeah.
And just the fact that the transfer portal is open, so these guys that choose to go to certain places and then they don't really either get the opportunities or the playing time that they're hoping for, they're able to like there's guys that played for Carolina last year who transferred out and are playing at other schools, and now where they might have either played basically not at all or play like 3 or 4 minutes a game at Carolina, they're flourishing other places.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that the players are not trapped where they choose to go has definitely helped level the playing field.
That makes a lot of sense. And I kind of like it. The amount of transfers, I'm not sure if I like.
Well,
like how they're just like
Yeah.
place to place, bounce to bounce to bounce to bounce. Like in college football, it seems remember like the coaching carousel?
Yeah.
Now it's the quarterback carousel for college football. It's like there's so many of them on the move every year.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Is he still a great coach, or did he lose that magic touch that he used to have?
To me,
Is it just harder to cheat? I mean, is it just harder to coach his players now in a different era with younger players, or better media, or
So to me, this is
More
one
ways
thing,
to catch coaching
I
tactics.
feel like every time we talk about someone, whether they should be fired or whatever,
Yeah.
like everyone in these big discussions always boils it down to, well, they only won X amount of games, or this was the winning expectation and they didn't get there, or they're supposed to get better every year and they weren't doing that.
Right.
And a lot of times I think it's stupid when the expectation is here way up high and you just barely come short of it, or like I think sometimes people's expectations are too high.
Right.
But there's a lot to account for that we don't know. Like what happens behind the scenes. Has it become very obvious to the people in charge, which I guess is just Robert Kraft? Because I think Bill Belichick was also the president of football operations. I don't know if he has a boss within the organization outside of the owner. Did it become obvious that he no longer can communicate with the players of today?
Right.
Which is possible. Like, it's funny because when you think about like the news coming out about Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick the same day.
Yeah.
Were they the two oldest coaches in the league? I think they were.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they're so anti each other because Belichick was the, hard-nosed disciplinarian. Everything's a secret. We're not talking to the media.
Yeah.
He didn't let players express themselves. And Pete Carroll is the opposite on all of that. He's high energy. He's positive. He gave his players a lot of leeway. I heard after the news dropped, I heard Mina Kimes, she's an ESPN NFL analyst, but she's a Seattle sports fan. And she was talking about how Pete Carroll not only managed to age with grace because he coached with positivity and he was a player's coach. Like people wanted to play for him.
Right.
He coached not just with positivity, but he coached with love. Like he coached in a way that he would make guys genuinely know that he cared about them.
Right.
And it wasn't just what they could do on the field, but it was a personal connection.
Right.
That I think helped him connect better with younger people of today. And that's how you can be the oldest coach in the league and still have some level of success, because they were in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
I know they weren't good this year.
Yeah.
But
They were close.
Yeah. They were
Missed
within
by,
a
like, a
game.
game.
Yeah. So it's not like he's totally fallen. Like there's so many bad teams and bad coaches out there, and he's not one of those. So yeah, I mean,
Speaking of, did the Packers, who barely squeaked in front of them, did they complete the job? The last I saw, they were just smoking Dallas.
it was like 27-7 at halftime.
Did they choke, or did they get the job done?
Let's see. 47-16. The Packers are up with 10 minutes left in the game.
What? That is bizarre.
That's a second massive blowout this weekend.
Did you see what? Because Texas just
destroyed the
Browns. What is going on?
Yeah, and then Buffalo was like, it's going to be really cold at our stadium. We can't play a game.
Here we go.
The NFL is like, for the safety of the fans, we don't want to play. Meanwhile, the fans are
Lining the streets with no shirt.
Jumping on burning tables and sliding down. There's a video on Twitter of fans playing in the snow at the stadium, shirtless.
I think they actually didn't. I saw a press release that in Buffalo they were offering to feed everyone a meal and pay them $20 an hour, just anyone who would show up to shovel the field, because there was supposed to be like 8 feet of snow, and they had no idea how even on Monday they were going to have it cleared with the staffing that they had.
Have they got it figured out?
I think so.
Daniel's
but
like...
were you seeing anything from the Kansas City-Miami game?
Dude,
yesterday
I have been
too?
so disconnected.
It was -9 degrees.
I think
with
it was
a -30 wind chill. Is that right, Andrew?
Something like that.
And I think it was I did see one thing from that it was -4 at kickoff.
Yeah.
And so the only reason I saw that is because somebody else said, no, that's nothing. It was -6 at kickoff for the Seahawks playoff game against Minnesota that one year.
Yes.
And I'm like, why are you saying that's nothing? It's 2 degrees different.
The crazy thing that happened that didn't happen, I haven't seen happen before, was Patrick Mahomes broke a helmet.
What?
Like a chunk came off of his helmet. Also, he
I don't think
initiated
that's
contact.
safe.
He lowered his head to initiate contact, which is a fine. I don't think he'll get fined. Just guessing.
Well, no, because he's the league's most valuable bundler. He's probably got fine insurance.
Mahomes or Maato?
Mahomes, Maato.
Did you guys
Show me
see
how this works again with your
Oh,
nuggies.
and Daniel, you're not on social media right now, so
Yeah.
you didn't get to see any of what I think was my favorite part of the coverage of that game.
Okay.
Which is what happens to drinks in that temperature. Because people are ordering beers.
Are they turning to slushies?
Within 5 minutes, they're not slushies, they're frozen volcanoes. What? So like you know how beer expands and like explodes in freezers?
Yeah.
Right? So when it freezes, it like pours out over, but then when it's coming out, it freezes.
The refrigerators were literally keeping the drinks from freezing.
Yes, that was the other thing. They're refrigerators. So there's water in a refrigerator, and when you pull it out of the refrigerator, you could hold it in your hand and watch it freeze in like 15 seconds into a solid block of ice. It was so cold.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I would not be playing football. I'd be like, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
This isn't for me.
I'm out.
And then you got Tyreek Hill telling the Dolphins players who live in Miami, they live and play in Miami.
Yeah.
He's telling them, hey, guys, I know it's going to be really cold, but you can't wear sleeves because that's a sign of weakness.
Idiot.
There were so many players not wearing sleeves. So many.
So dumb. So dumb.
When your football's tough because there's so much downtime.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're
So
playing
much.
soccer or rugby or any of the games where like you literally can run for like 40 minutes, then it makes more sense to not be like, if you're working really hard.
Yeah.
It can feel nice to be
you're-
out there in sub-zero.
When you're constantly
Yeah,
moving.
yeah.
Except for your skin hurts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then you stop and you're like, what the heck's going on? I can't feel anything.
Yeah.
But yeah,
football, you're
football's
standing.
different. I
You're
kind of want to
standing
see
there on the
somebody out there in a
sidelines.
puffy jacket.
Like
On the
on
field?
the field?
Yeah, like a legit puffy
Like-
jacket underneath their
Like
their
the
jersey.
relievers used
There's
to
probably a
wear,
rule
or like
against
the pitchers used to wear in the National League when they ran the bases. They'd get to first base and people would run them out a jacket, and you'd be like, okay, this goober already looks weird enough trying to run the bases. Now you're going to give him this giant puffy jacket to make sure his arm stays warm for the 20 seconds he's going to be on the bases. What? So weird.
Yeah.
Baseball's weird. Oh, what else from the 2-minute drill? Did you see the report that they threw there was a party for Pete Carroll after he got fired, and a bunch
Yeah.
of people showed up,
Yep.
and Pete Carroll's said how Russell Wilson and Richard Sherman were both there and talking with each other. What do you want to bet that if anybody asks Richard about that, he'll say it's not true?
It's possible.
He'll be like, that never happened. I hate that guy.
I saw a picture from that get together. There's a bunch of old LOB guys there
I'm glad.
at the gathering. I think it's cool that there was obviously some hostility and bad blood there.
Yeah.
I think then the big question is, like, what do you do? Like, what? How? Like, what do you do?
What do you do?
Pete and John have been.
Well, at least John's still
team.
there, right?
Yeah. And
John-
I think he still has a few more years on his contract.
Okay.
And it sounds like they're going to empower him to hire the coach. Like, it sounds like it's going to be largely his decision
But
on
who?
where to go.
Yeah, exactly. Who are they going to go
I'm
with?
rooting for Bill Belichick.
No,
That would be hilarious.
that would be really funny, but I don't
See it either.
I guess in my mind, I'm like, I'm so hypocritical on this, because on one hand, I'm like, New England, you suck, and you're ungrateful for Bill Belichick and all these years, and
Yeah.
he shouldn't have been ousted like this. And then on the other hand, it's like, well, Bill Belichick could come coach your local team, and I'm like, well, I don't know. He's 70 plus. He's grumpy. Nobody likes him.
I don't want the grumpy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the grumpy.
I don't even mind the grumpy.
He's so funny.
If it's in my mind, if Robert Kraft has made the assessment that he can no longer do this job, like Robert Kraft has assessed that Bill Belichick is no longer capable of doing the job, then in my mind I have doubt about whether or not I would like him to coach the Seahawks.
I would love it if Bill Belichick was hired as the Seahawks. I would be like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Let's go. I will say, I am joking in general that that's what I'm rooting for.
Right.
But there is, in Bill Belichick's in the defense of the idea of hiring Bill Belichick as a coach, it sounds, from what I've heard, it sounds like he is willing to take a position as a coach only, a head coach only, which is completely different than what he was doing in New England, where he was running everything.
Right.
And I am open to that possibility that he could go somewhere just as a coach with a good GM, and all of a sudden we could be like the league could be like, oh crap, that's the Bill Belichick teams that we remember, because it seems
With
almost
microphones in
impossible
other
for
teams'
anyone-
locker rooms.
Yeah, it seems almost impossible for anybody to actually successfully do all those things.
Yeah, that makes
Well,
sense.
Mike McCarthy might be available here in about 45 minutes if they want.
7.5 minutes.
Do you guys want offensive or defensive head coach?
I'll tell you. You know what I really want? I really want a young coach that's not on anybody's radar, that
I know.
that John Schneider has connections with and is like, I think this guy's ready for big time.
Yeah.
That's like my best case scenario. I
Off
think
the
that would
radar.
be really cool.
Yeah, not constantly hearing
Yeah.
one of the obvious names that they should be in, like Dan Quinn or McCarthy or anything
Or
like that. But
like
you want
Eric
somebody new.
Bieniemy. That's another name that we've heard every
Every
coaching
year.
carousel for the last 5
What was
years.
the
You know
name?
who's
Bieniemy.
Oh.
yeah, you know who really intrigues me, and I know he's not going to be available, and I know they just lost to Kansas City, but the Dolphins head coach is bizarre, and he cracks me up. Have you watched like any of his stuff? Will just leave you crying. He is a weird
seen
dude, but he's so funny.
Yes, agreed on all points.
Yeah.
He's funny. He seems extremely likable.
Yeah.
His offense, because he comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree and incorporates a lot of the innovation of that offense in his offense. It's fun to watch.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
So something like that. Somebody's fun.
Mike McDaniel is his
Yeah.
name, by the way.
Dude, his press conferences are hilarious.
Yeah, he seems like such a nerd, but like
Yeah.
he's a nerd who doesn't give a crap what anybody thinks or says
Yeah.
about him. He's fully confident in his own skin.
Yes. Did you see the clip of like his mic'd up when Dan Marino's getting like recognized on the sidelines, and he's like 5 yards from Dan Marino, but the stadium's so loud that there's no way you can hear what they're saying next to each other. And Dan Marino's like waving to the crowd, and he's like, "Hey, F yeah, Dan Marino. F your records, Dan. We're coming for your records, Dan." And he's just yelling this at him. Marino can't hear a word he's saying, and it just looks like this weird little dude standing behind him.
And not just
chirping
anybody
at
could
him.
get away with that either.
Yeah, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. I would like innovation on offense, but I'm not sure. Like, I don't know what I want in a head coach, because we've been used to this like defensive first kind of minded head coach for so long now. But I'm really intrigued with somebody who's like in the middle, because it always seems like, oh, this is a defensive minded head coach, and they come in and they're like, we're all about the defense, blah 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 blah, and then offensive minded head coach comes in and it's like, all
I don't
we're
even
doing
know the defensive player's name.
exactly. And
Mike
the only person who I know who isn't that wasn't John Harbaugh.
He was a special
He's
teams
a special
coach.
teams coach, and it generally seems like on a given year
Wasn't
they could
Bill
be good
Belichick
offensively or.
also originally a special teams coach?
thought he was
don't
the
know.
defensive
I think he's
coordinator.
defensive.
I think he was the defensive coordinator. Oh, I dropped the blitz ball. I guess I lost my blitz ball
Yeah, ooh, it's
privileges.
warm. Do you have warm hands?
Always.
Oh, I've got cold hands.
Want to borrow them?
Yeah,
Would you like to move on to my favorite part of the show?
I guess. Because I don't know any of the
Serving
coaches.
questions up on a silver platter, where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Mike Vrabel's one that's going to come up for every coaching vacancy. He just got fired by
Did
the
he get
Titans.
fired?
Yeah.
See, I kind of liked Vrabel too.
I think that a lot of Titans fans are not thrilled about the fact that they fired him, because the general perception is that he overachieved with the rosters that he's had. And
Yeah.
even though they were very unsuccessful this year, they shouldn't have been good. So
That's kind of always the feeling that I've got from him
yeah,
too.
we'll see. And he's got playoff wins. He's got multiple playoff wins in his short coaching career. He's gonna get his pick of one of the good jobs in the league.
I think you're right there.
Stump Daniel is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz, no relation.
What's the A stand for?
And this week, Daniel, something popped up during the Kansas City-Miami playoff game. I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched part of it, and something I thought was interesting and has a Seahawks tie popped up in it.
A railroad tie?
So Kansas City offensive lineman Jawan Taylor committed 17 penalties this season to lead the NFL, and it was tied for the highest amount of penalties by a single player in a season since this Seahawk did it in 2015.
2015.
In 2015, who was the Seahawk who committed more than 17 penalties?
You know what's funny is there's like multiple names that are coming to mind who I think could have done
Don't worry,
this.
because there's a bonus point opportunity after this.
Okay.
That's another Seahawk.
So there's the two names, 2015.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you the two names.
Okay.
I don't think you'll be surprised at either of the names that I come up with.
Okay.
But the first one is Breno Giacomini.
Okay.
And the second one is Brandon Browner.
Okay.
Those are the two guys I'm thinking of.
Giacomini
And
committed a holding penalty every other play.
Yeah. And I feel like offensive linemen, by the nature of their position, have more opportunities to commit penalties. Especially back then when the league still wasn't quite as pass happy as it is now.
I'll give you just this one little tidbit here. I have 9 years worth of the leading penalty getter in the NFL in front of me.
Yeah.
6 of them are offensive linemen.
So either you told me that to try and
3 of them are defensive backs.
I'm going to stick with my gut.
Okay.
And I'm going to go with Breno Giacomini.
Terrible guess. I'm sorry, Daniel. That is incorrect.
Shoot.
The correct answer was Brandon Browner,
Dang it, are you serious?
who committed 21
Oh.
penalties. 21 penalties
21?
in 2015.
Jeez.
I'm going to give you a chance to redeem yourself.
One time I saw a basketball player. It wasn't one time. It was the very first college basketball games that I'd went to. I was like 6 years old. We're watching an Oregon State-Oregon game, and this dude fouled out in the first half. 21 penalties in a year by DB is pretty much the same thing, you hacker.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at 17's a lot. Like that's what Jawan Taylor had this year. That's also what Laramie Tunsil had in 2019. Most of the rest of the list is 10, 12, 14. Yeah. 21 is a lot.
That's
21 is twice as many as the leading Patrick Peterson in 2020 was the leading penalized player with 10.
That's nuts.
Browner had 21.
That's bonkers.
2 years later, Daniel,
Yeah.
it's your opportunity to redeem yourself. 2 years later, another Seahawk was atop this list with 16 penalties.
Only 16?
2017, yeah.
Pittance.
Significantly less than Browner.
I was so hopeful it wasn't Browner. That guy turned out to be a bad dude. Real bad dude.
Yeah.
What year again?
2017.
Gosh. Let's see. So it's probably an offensive lineman, unless it isn't, and it's a DB.
Well, it either is or it isn't.
Let's see.
It's
The
one of
DBs
those.
though, none of the DBs don't strike me as, because 2017 that's still Legion of Boom, right? So we still have Richard Sherman, Chancellor, and Earl Thomas, and then a combination of also Rands there in that fourth spot. Or is that after the Legion already got broken up?
I think the Legion was still there in 17.
Okay. I am going to say James Carpenter.
Terrible guess, Daniel. The correct answer, which will trigger you when you hear it,
Uh-oh.
is Jermaine Ifedi.
Oh!
16 penalties in 2017.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. That dude was miserable.
So that will conclude this edition of Stump Daniel, which is brought to you by the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. We have a lot of good stuff coming up because we are going to do a full local sports roundup.
Yep.
We have an interview scheduled with Elma boys head basketball coach Matt Ferrier, and then we will have to select a Spivey Athlete of the Week from several very deserving nominees. But before we do that, let's take a quick commercial break.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Damashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Damashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit damashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
Thank you again to our sponsors, the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz and Spivey Realty Group. We so very much appreciate your guys' support as we try and support local athletes by helping out, giving them the coverage they deserve. As Justin mentioned, we will be speaking with head boys basketball coach of the Elma Eagles, Matt Ferrier, later on in the show. Very excited about that as they got some big wins over the last week. But now let's get things rolling on this second part of our show with the local sports roundup.
You have to read the first one.
Oh, I have to read the first one?
Read that one.
Sorry. You can't. Oh, you can't read this one. I understand. Elma rallied in the fourth quarter on Tuesday night to pick up a road win over Montesano 56-53. Monty held a 49-42 advantage with just under 5 minutes left in the game. Kaysen Seberg led the Eagles with 21 points. Carter Studer scored 10 points and pulled down 10 rebounds. Montesano's DeLon Chan led all scorers with 23, and Tyce Peterson chipped in 14 for the Bulldogs. The Eagles fell to Tenino on Thursday, 55-52. Seberg led Elma with 18 points. Glad to see that he was healthy for that game. Traden Carter added 17 points in the loss.
It was noted in the article that Seberg played with a heavily wrapped ankle. He injured it right at the end of the game against Montesano. Literally right at the end.
Yep.
Monty lost again on Thursday, 59-47 to White River. That's a really good 2A school, so no shame in losing in that one. Chan led the Bulldogs with 19 points, and Jackson Wilson added 10.
Raymond's boys basketball team edged Ocasta 52-47 on Tuesday. Christopher Quintana led the Seagulls with 18 points. Jesus Agramon paced the Wildcats with 17 points.
Aberdeen hosted Raymond on Saturday and pulled out a 55-54 win with the game tied at 52 and a minute 52 left on the clock. Manny Garcia hit a deep three-pointer, which ended up being the game winner. If you want to see that, go check out the Daily World article. They've got a really good video of that play. Zanto Rea blocked a Seagull shot as time expired to seal the win. Garcia led the Bobcats with 16 points. Actually, the blocked shot, there's also a good video of that in the Daily World article. Garcia led the Bobcats with 16 points. Charlie Ansich and Jacob Q. Zada added 11 points apiece. Raymond's Christopher Quintana led all scorers with 21 points and also swiped 6 steals.
North Beach picked up its fourth boys basketball win of the season, 62-25 over Lake Quinault. Tyrell Hovland led the Hyaks with 14 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 steals, while Jeremiah Easton added 13 points, 6 boards, and 4 steals. Quinault was led by Lewis Anderson's 12 points.
Willapa Valley's boys basketball team beat Columbia Adventist 57-52 on Thursday in Menlo. Nathan Fluke scored 21 points for the Vikings.
No fluke.
And Brody Ritzman had 14 points and 11 rebounds.
Putting on the Ritz, man. Raymond South Bend's girls basketball team beat Ocasta on Tuesday, 55-24. Ava Lynn Stegall led RSB with 15 points. Still chuckling over the Ritz man comment. Yeah, Cassie Koski was 1 rebound shy of a triple-double for the Ravens with 10 points, 12 steals, and 9 rebounds. I almost said triple-dub, and that felt too close to something you would say. So
Trip-dub.
RSB forced 33 Wildcat turnovers in the game. Anna Davis led Ocasta with 11 points, 13 boards, and 5 steals. The Ravens were back in action on Friday and picked up a 61-45 win at Ilwaco. Kendall Koski racked up 17 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals in that matchup.
Acosta bounced back from their loss to RSB with a 46-42 win at Chief Leshai on
Chief
Friday.
Leshai.
Tough place to play, I can tell you from experience. Not because I played there, but because I watched the game there. Davis led the Wildcats with 18 points and 16 rebounds. Alexia Bradley added 13 points and 16 boards. 32 rebounds between those two players. Crazy.
Montesano's girls basketball team improved to 3-0 in league play with a 53-32 road win over Elma on Wednesday. Evangeline Dalen scored 24 points for the Bulldogs. The sophomore also grabbed 19 boards, including 10 on the offensive glass. Monty freshman Teander Olson had 14 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and 2 steals to stuff the stat sheet. Eliza Sibbett led the Eagles with 9 points. The Bulldogs fell to White River on Saturday, 58-33. Dalen posted a double-double with 14 points and 11 boards in the losing effort.
Elma bounced back from the loss to Monty with a 49-21 home win over Tenino on Thursday, improving to 2-1 in league play. Malia Sibbett led the balanced Eagles scoring attack with 12 points. Olivia Moore and Kiki Bowl each scored 9 points, and Eliza Sibbett added 7.
Take that, Tenino. Willapa Valley's girls basketball team improved to 5-1 in a league play with a 48-14 home win over Columbia Adventist on Thursday. Lauren Matlock led the Vikings with 16 points and 4 steals. Tyler Keaton added 10 points and 6 rebounds, and thus concludes the local sports roundup. Andrew, now would be a good time, if you haven't already, to start getting us ready to go on the Zoom link to try and send that over to Coach Ferrier. As Justin, do we have a Gulls update?
We do.
We do?
I also want to point out, I really like the way you said Thursday. We have an update from Coach Daniel from the Gulls on the B09 Premier Gulls players who are playing for WPL Surf. They are playing in the 2024 Vegas Cup. So you have Hebron Garcia, Yvonne Pudge Rodriguez, Michael Garcia, and JB Fabian all playing for that surf team, which, as a reminder to people who aren't listening all the time, these are local kids from our local Grays Harbor high schools that have played so well for the Gulls that they've been promoted and promoted again, and a few of them were selected to play on the Surf Academy team, which is a very elite squad that it really helps them to get their soccer careers going to the next level. And these are young kids. The B09 refers to their birth year, so they're like 14, 15, something like that now. So these guys play on this really good team, and in game 1, their team played to a 1-1 draw. Michael Garcia had the only goal in the match for Surf Academy. In game 2, they lost 2-1, but JB Fabian scored the only goal for Surf. They do have more games this weekend, but they can't advance any further after losing that last match. But it's exciting to see these guys be able to get out there and compete at this super high level, and also seeing them scoring goals at this really high level. And as a side note from Coach Daniel, JB is the captain of the team for this weekend. He also sent a note that said JB didn't get subbed out the whole game.
Nice.
And played number 6 in the midfield, which, as he also, thank you, Coach Daniel, sent me like a cheat sheet of what number 6 in the midfield means and like where that is. It's basically like a defensive center midfielder, but like a defensive midfielder.
Okay.
So probably like you were saying, like the guys who do the most running, most likely, and played the whole game and didn't sub out.
Ugh. I mean, I'm sure he loved it, but that's a lot of work. That's really hard to do.
Yeah. So anyway.
Is that it?
That's the Gulls update.
That's the Gulls update. So would now be an okay time to send Coach Ferrier the...
Absolutely.
Okay. I'll tell him to...
And in the meantime, we can talk a little bit about
can.
the game, because Daniel, you and I broadcasted that game.
Yes.
I also have a little extra personal tie to that game because my son plays on the team which lost.
Yes.
And I know many of those kids very well. And yeah, it hurt a little bit. It hurt a little bit. I was not grumpy about it at all.
You were kind of grumpy about it.
A little bit, I was.
You were kind of grumpy. I was trying to make jokes after the game, and you didn't really care, and you got in your car really, really quickly. And it was kind of like, why is Daniel still trying to talk to me?
No,
I'm upset about this.
I was trying trying to not be grumpy, but I was failing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay though. I understood, and then I also was like, man, I'm not being very sensitive to the fact that this is Justin's grumpy.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Not much of what you were saying really registered anyway.
Yeah.
But it was
much like the show.
It was a great game.
It was a good game.
I don't remember exactly what we got from our statistician Rick Anderson, but there was a ton of ties and lead changes. The biggest lead of the game, I believe, was the 49-42 lead that Monty had with just under 5 minutes left, that Elma ended up erasing pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. It really was just an intense competitive game all the way through. And it didn't feel like either team was significantly better than the other. But I will say there was a couple players that I felt really stood out. And on the Monty side, especially in the second half, it was DeLon Chan. Because there was a point in the game where it felt like for the Bulldogs there was a lid on the bucket. And then he hit 2 threes and 2 really tough 2-pointers, and these are contested shots where he's creating his own space. Just had a phenomenal offensive half in the second half. And on the Elma side, Kaysen Seberg was phenomenal. Not only was he hit a couple shots from the outside, he has good bounce, good length, and good height as a guard, or as a wing or a guard or whatever you want to call a guy who plays mostly outside but can drive to the basket, that he's tough to stop when he gets a lane. And I thought he was just really great. And then in addition to that, the portions of the game that DeLon Chan was struggling to score was because Kaysen Seberg was in his hip pocket and not allowing him to have any space.
Absolutely.
So I know we selected Kaysen as our player of the game, but I think I knew he was a good player. My opinion of him as a player grew in that game, or what he was capable of doing.
Absolutely. And the work that he put in on defense
in
that stretch, while along with being a huge part on offense for that team, is huge, because he led them with 21 points. And I think we had him with like 6 rebounds.
Yeah, something in that range. Yeah.
So, but the work that he was having to put in, and the effort and the brain space that he was having to work to put in to stopping DeLon Chan in that time period when they made their big comeback was quite noticeable. And then it was also noticeable that as soon as he rolled his ankle, 2 seconds later, DeLon Chan hits a 3-pointer.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, I'm free. I can shoot.
We've got Coach Ferrier here. Hang on.
Yeah, it was a weird finish. Not only with the way that Kaysen rolled his ankle at the end, which was like from what I could tell, it was non-contact. It was before the ball was even inbounded. But then the scoreboard cutting out with 19 seconds left was also
bizarre.
Weird. Hey, Coach Ferrier, can you hear us?
We can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hey, congratulations on the win as much.
I do not congratulate you on the win.
Justin does.
I didn't think you would, but I'll take that victory. That's for sure.
Okay.
And don't pay any attention to the beaver on my hat. It is not a Tenino beaver.
Oh.
I don't condone Tenino beavers at all. First, I think we'd like to talk a little bit about that Montesano game. It was such an excellent game, and I feel like one of those games that you will be able to point back to your players as a close game down the stretch, that you guys were able to overcome some things and make a comeback in a hostile environment and get the win. Just in general, to start, what do you have to say about your kids in that game?
Well, first off, we haven't seen a boys basketball game between Monty and Elma in about 20 years that had that significant value on it, and to go on on the road and win it, a very packed gymnasium, was pretty cool for my kids. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Dating back to it, yes. I mean, I've been talking the whole entire league season, or actually the whole season, about how difficult our league is this year, and to sneak one against your rival on the road, on their home court, was huge.
Yeah, I would say so far, to echo that sentiment about the league, I went into the league season, every team in our league had a winning record. It seemed like all of them were competitive, and it was kind of hard even using transitive law and trying to, look at the different scores to figure out who the best teams were going to be. And so far the league season has been insanely competitive, and I expect to see a lot more of that. And obviously I'm excited for what will happen when we get to go play when Monty will get to go play Elma at Elma in a few weeks. I remember what that
It's
game.
going to be a big night. There's a big event that's happening that night that's bringing back the 1964 state title team
Cool.
for Elma. So there's going to be probably a standing room only at that gym that night.
I'll try my best to get there early.
That'll be awesome. I'm assuming, because one of the things I like about Elma's gym is all the pictures of like the old players and stuff from. So we've probably looked at the pictures of some of those guys walking into that gym before then.
I'm kind of scarred though, because last year when Monty Varsity Boys played at Elma, it was competitive for a while, and then we came out in the third quarter and just got totally boat raced, and the Eagles' energy was.
We took off. We changed the pace in that
Absolutely.
game. I do remember it, and we just ran up the middle of the court. For some reason, your guys didn't get back.
It was crazy. Well, they got deflated. I mean, they came out of halftime, got punched in the mouth, got deflated, and then just never got back. But
You got a big time different team this year.
It feels like it. It's a lot more experienced. I think that even just the added element of DeLon Chan being there for scoring makes a big difference as well. But we're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about your team. So I know.
Let's do it. I've been waiting all day since you
All right.
sent me a message this morning.
So Daniel and I, we've seen Kaysen Seberg play a lot. We've known he's a good player. I've known he's a great perimeter defensive player. I think that offensively, that was the best that I've seen him play with my own eyes. So I guess my big question for you is, like, what we saw from Kaysen in the game against Montesano, was that kind of more of the same of what you get from him on a regular basis, or did you feel like he had an exceptional game that day?
Well, Kaysen, I don't know how he doesn't get tired. I asked him to play on the best player for the opposing team and be our leading scorer, which is an incredible feat for him to do. No, we expect it every single night. I know that he has some personal goals of his that he's trying to accomplish that fall within the confines of our offensive stuff that we're doing. But we put so much of a load on his shoulders. It's incredible.
And going into the year too, it blows my mind that Traden Carter still isn't a senior, because it seems like he's just been around forever. He's such an excellent athlete and does some great things for you guys. It seems like with those two guys, you have two people that you can really count on for really anything you need late game situations.
Well, we're still trying to get Traden healthy. I mean, he was healthy, not healthy coming into the season from football, and then he obviously had a big ankle sprain early in that Aberdeen game, right after our seaside trip, and he's just now getting back to where he's moving close to 100%, anyways. But for him to come out and play as well as he did versus Tenino the other night, kind of is a great time for us to see what he's capable of doing. I know that he feels like he's underperformed most of the season, so hopefully that gets him kicked in the right direction.
And then, I mean, there's a lot of other guys who contribute on your team as well.
Contribute and have huge nights. That's the cool thing about the Elma Eagles is that we have 7 different guys that kind of shoulder a load. I mean, Carter Studer's had an amazing week and a half. AJ obviously is AJ, and he sporadically will throw in a 19 and 13 rebound game that is very telling of what our team is capable of doing.
And I think when Daniel and I were talking preseason about the league, and none of us really knew what was going to happen or what the teams were going to look like, but we kind of pinpointed Tenino and Elma as we think these are the 2 best teams in the league coming into it. And a lot of that is because many of the guys who you have making contributions now were also some of the best players on your team making huge contributions last year as well. Do you feel like that experience has helped you guys this season, and have they been able to build on it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the end of our season last year kind of opened up a vast world of playoff basketball that kind of got those kids energized, and their finish to that particular season they weren't happy about. So knowing what they were able to do and then what they could do kind of rolled right into last spring and the summer. We had amazing commitments. Most of those kids actually put in a lot of extra time on their own and got a lot better.
A lot of the kids that I like to focus on are some of those defensive kind of grinded out gritty players that come in, and they might not get most of the scoring love or the attention like that, but I was really impressed with how Theo Flores came in off the bench and really seemed to do his job extremely well. Is that something that you get from him on a night in, night out basis too? It seemed like he was a very effective player for you.
He is. I mean, he's a great defender. He can move laterally. He throws a different element by being probably the smallest contributor of anybody in the league, anyways. But he does a great job defending on ball. He does a great job of being our penetrator against teams who like to zone us. He's the best at that, and he just he moves the basketball from a different angle that most teams have a hard time defending.
So we've obviously got, we mentioned Seaberg and also talked about Traden Carter, which I think are probably kind of the two guys at the top. You got the big guys in A.J. Holmes and Carter Studer. You got the defensive X factor in Theo Flores. One guy that I've always felt like, I don't know how often he's on the floor, but I feel like every time he's on the floor, he does something good. And as evidence,
the glue guy.
The glue
Here
guy
comes the glue guy comment, right?
is the glue guy Grant Vesey.
Of course. I think he's the glue guy in anything that he does. It might be in the PE class. It might be in the basketball court. I know he plays first base and pitches for the baseball team. He's a natural leader. He's been our leader for the last three years, just through effort and energy and by example. And he does good things. He does great things. I know that he's put a lot of time into shooting the basketball, which is going to help us down the stretch.
I know that I found it very personally annoying how he left his man to go double DeLon Chan at the end of the game and help force
Smart
the ball
kid.
out.
He made a read on his own. That actually wasn't even the play call for us.
So brilliant.
We were trying to just let him go all the way to the hoop and not give up a three-pointer at that point. And Grant made a great read and went over there and doubled it. And obviously we got the shot or the pass to Bodwell, who thank goodness didn't knock that one down.
Yeah, obviously the guy in that scenario you didn't want to shoot it was DeLon, and your kids, whether it was Traden Carter on the initial defense and then Grant Vesey coming over for the help, forcing the ball out of his hands, putting him in a scenario where he had no option to shoot the ball and had to look for help.
Yeah.
Well, it was cool. I mean, Casey goes down with injury and Traden just jumps right up and says, I'm taking that guy. Hasn't defended him all night, obviously. Mm-hmm. And for him to push him back into that trap from Vesey was awesome.
Yeah.
Just great basketball IQ plays from both of those kids, I feel like. And that's the thing, looking at this Elma squad, and you mentioned the run to the playoffs last year. It seems like we see that fairly often because you get to districts and then state is even another level, but the speed of the game is so much faster and more intense once you get to the district tournament than even in league play. And so it seems like when they come back to league, those players who witness that, who experience that speed, just have another like sense of basketball IQ or familiarity when it gets to the late game, tight situations like that.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, once you start playing teams that are as good as you or better on an every night basis, you definitely have to learn. You have to learn pace. You have to learn space, obviously, and whether or not you can actually play at that level. And our kids after last year either decided that they knew that they could, but weren't quite there skill-wise and put the time into it. And hopefully we're looking at that direction again this year.
And so I would like to also briefly talk about the game you guys played against Tenino on Thursday, because Tenino, I mean, they're undefeated so far in league play through the first round. They're 4-0. They've beaten everybody once now. But you guys gave them the best run. You guys gave them the best game out of everybody in a
We were there. We had a tie ball game on a minute at 50-50. So, I mean, we at least did something to put ourselves in a particular position to win the basketball game. The Scout kid is an amazing talent for them, obviously. So for Kaysen to come out there on a bum ankle and be able to make him work as hard as possible is one of the main reasons why we're in the basketball game down the stretch.
Yeah, this was coming. I think he scored over 40 points. I think Scout scored over 40 the previous game against Eatonville. So for somebody to come out and hold him, and there's only so much you can do. He's a really good player. There's only so much you can do. You're not going to shut him down completely. I know when Montesano played against Tenino last year, I felt like, oh man, they did a really great job on him defensively. And then you look up at the end of the game and he scored 19 points. He's a tough player and he's tough to handle. But I felt encouraged by seeing how competitive that game was, because as I know that when Monty played against Tenino, They lost. It was a competitive game for most of the way. It kind of got out of hand at the end, but I felt like Monty wasn't playing their best ball. You know, we've seen what can happen when Monty and Elma play against each other. We've seen how competitive it is between Elma and Tenino. And, you know, you guys played Hoquiam, and that was a really close game earlier this season as well. So league play just, I think, is all shaping up to be really competitive 1 through 5.
Going to be a battle. I know it's going to be a battle. That's the cool portion of it. It kind of dates back to when I was in high school just a little bit, that every night you have to show up or somebody's going to knock you off.
Absolutely. You got anything else,
No,
Daniel? Was there anybody from your team? I think we covered most of the guys that we know. Was there anybody else from your team that we didn't get a chance to mention that you want to shout out?
No, Carter Studer's done a great job. I personally challenged him to change what he was contributing to the team after the Hoquiam game, and he's been spot on through the last 3 games. Had a huge night over at Napa Vine for us. The only other one that's really contributing off the bench quite a bit is Isaac McGaffey, and you saw him in the starting lineup versus you guys. We went ahead and made a choice to go to our biggest lineup versus Montesano, and I thought it got us off to a good start. So he's doing a good job and doing good stuff as a sophomore off the bench too.
Well, just after watching football season, I'm just glad that he's healthy and able to play in winter sports too. That was kind of a scary situation.
We're happy. He's happy, obviously. That was a pretty brutal thing for a high school kid to have to go through and deal with, and I know that he's still recovering from it just a little bit too.
So it seems like you guys are a little bit banged up still, but that's scary for the rest of the league.
That's the adversity that my group thrives on. I think I had to look up the other day. I think 9 of our 14 games that we've had this year have all came down to like this 2 or 3 possessions at the end of a basketball game. So we're living in that. We got 2 of those games, 2 wins down the seaside in Oregon that were basically came down to the last possession too. So I think my guys really know how to fight. Definitely some true grit there, and they battle it every day. So if injuries are another version of that adversity, they tend to thrive on it.
Well, it seems like this is a team that having that experience and that kind of mindset should do well down the stretch here in league play into districts. Hopefully I can get some of your games on the radio during the district tournament and that madness, the awesome madness that week is. District tournament's my favorite part of the year every year. Get to watch so much basketball, but good luck the rest of the way, and thank you so much for hopping on with us. Late notice. I really, really appreciate it, and it was good to get your insight on a lot more of your players.
Yeah, best of luck to
Sounds
you.
good. Well, thank you very much for having it. I love the cast. Watched it daily through football season since my son played on the Eagles football team. So it's awesome. I love your community support.
Best of luck to you, except when you play Montesano.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks, Coach.
Matt. Oh, that was Elma head boys basketball coach Matt Ferrier again. Thank you so much for jumping on. And you know, it surprises me that Elma people jump on knowing that you're on this show and checking your phone right now. Are you getting people talking? Are Monty people upset that you had him on the show? Is that what you're having to check with there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay. I thought I lost you for a bit.
No, I'm here.
That was really cool to hear a little bit more background on some of these kids that you watch play. And this is an Elma squad that you mentioned you had pointed to at the beginning of the year as could be one of the top 2 teams in this league. And I think right now they're showing it.
I think I actually picked him first.
Yeah.
And that I may have.
Was that just because you hate Tenino?
No, it was because I underestimated the supporting cast of Tenino outside of Scow and Ganya, because I know those 2 players at Tenino were really good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that they had a post that was going to come in, a 6'6" kid that was really good, and they have Will Feltus is playing really well, and they have a few other guys there that are contributing in a way that I didn't quite anticipate. And I thought Elma was more well-rounded. And I still do feel like those 2 teams are really good and competitive and on a similar level. But yeah, I think I felt like the way they competed in the postseason last year and knowing how many players they were bringing back, when you just look at like the guys on last year's Elma boys basketball roster who were contributing, there weren't very many who graduated. Like there's a couple players that had big contributions for them, but most of the crew was back. And I felt like going into it, this was going to be a really good season for them, and they haven't disappointed so far.
This might be a bit early, but from what you've seen, the little you've seen of the other division that comes into the district tournament, or the other league that comes into districts,
Yeah.
do you have a feel at all as to what that district tournament's going to be like with the 1A Evergreen in the Trico League? Normally I have a pretty good feel of what I look at it, and La Center's normally one of their better teams, but they don't look very good this year. And it's interesting to kind of try and get a read on what is going to be the top team down there for that Trico League. I guess since Seton Catholic and Kingsway Christian, they've just kind of grown into private schools, which are generally good at basketball. But Kingsway Christian lost to La Center.
Yeah, I think Seton Catholic is regarded as the best team there. La Center, as I'm looking at their standings here, and I'm not sure if it's completely accurate on Max Preps or not, but La Center's 2-1 in district, but only 3-9 overall.
Yeah.
Stevenson is 8-3, but I'm gonna assume that they did what they did during football season and just load up on a bunch of B schools. I have no idea how good they actually are. As I'm thinking about it, there's a little bit of crossover here because I know Montesano played.
Stevenson played Goldendale. That's not a small school, is it? Heritage, I believe, is. Gladstone, I believe, is. Yeah, there's a bunch of schools in here I don't recognize.
So Monty played La Center,
right,
and won by 12 at La Center.
Yeah.
I did hear that they might have been missing one of their good players was out that day.
Okay.
But I thought that was a pretty competitive game. It wasn't like a total blowout.
Oh, Goldendale is a small school.
Monty also beat Castle Rock 54-31. Castle Rock is not good. Columbia White Salmon, Monty won at Columbia White Salmon 63-45. Both of Monty's played Castle Rock twice and beat them pretty soundly both times. So I don't think any of those. I mean, it's hard to say how competitive that other league is since I haven't been paying really close attention to it. I think Seton Catholic is good, but outside of that, I'm honestly not really sure.
Yeah, they're 7-5 on the year, 3-0 in their district so far. But as I mentioned, they've kind of been improving over the last few years, both like their basketball program as a whole, and so.
Who's Seton Catholic?
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible gym.
Really?
Tiny.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Is Andrew watching something?
Where's that?
Or is that coming from my phone?
That's coming from your phone.
That was my phone. I was just blaming Andrew for autoplay videos on my phone as I'm on Max Preps.
Great job, Daniel.
Good job by me. We still have our Spivey Athlete of the Week to name coming up in just a bit. But before we do, we have a commercial break from one of our sponsors. Spivey Realty Group's goal is to make buying, selling, investing, and renting real estate in Grace Harbor simple. They believe in 100% transparency and unparalleled communication with local expertise, tech-enhanced, and top-notch service for their friends, neighbors, and community. Their goal is simple: get a group of strong-willed, hardworking people together who want to make a difference in Grace Harbor, and to use real estate as the means of achieving that. Voted Grace Harbor's best real estate company. Find them on Facebook or visit graceharborrealestate.com. Spivey Realty Group, elevating small town real estate. Thank you again to our sponsor, Spivey Realty Group, and the law office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. Whew. Now we got another tough task, Justin. Who's it going to be, and who do we have nominations for the Athlete of the Week? And is there someone who didn't get nominated that maybe you've heard about that should have been?
Well, I think we can throw onto the list JB Fabian from Grays Harbor Goals / Surf Academy,
right,
for being a captain and scoring a goal there. The nominations that came in were for DeLon Chan from Montesano basketball. He had 23 points in one game, 19 points in another game. I know that towards the end of that Monty Elma game, it felt like he was rejuvenating Monty at points and really kept him in the game.
Seeing that he scored 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and really it was like at the point when they got there, I don't remember exactly what the deficit was, 5 points or 7 points or whatever it was. They got down.
Yeah.
And then he started knocking down tough buckets.
Yep.
And DeLon's been the athlete of the week a couple times, but I don't think you can get athlete of the week when you lose twice. It might be an unfair
De-escalator.
standard. It might be an unfair standard, and DeLon was great. And,
Yeah.
and I watched both games, and he was great in both games. But Case and Seberg is an obvious one here because you've got the Escalator of rivalry game.
Yep.
He was phenomenal
Yeah.
in that game that Elma beat Monty, as much as I hate to admit it. And then he also, they lost to Tenino, but he led the team again with 18 points in the game against Tenino. So Case and Seberg, definitely serious contention there. Jilly Dalen from Monty, there's an Escalator there as well because she had a pretty crazy stat line in their win. Not only was it a game against a rival, but it was a game at a rival. So Monty at Elma, Jilly Dalen had 24 points and 19 rebounds. And then later in the week when they lost to White River, she had a double-double with 14 points and 11 boards. So that's a big one. And then finally, the one that we haven't mentioned yet is Maddie Gore, which we got a nomination, and thank you so much for sending in the information. Mary sent us some information about Maddie. Maddie is a Aberdeen high school grad and was an exceptional basketball player at Aberdeen. She's now playing at Centralia College, and she scored 20 points in their first conference game just this past week, and she's averaging through 14 games. She is averaging 17.9 points per game.
Nice.
For Centralia College. So, and as a freshman there, playing really well. You know, love seeing our local athletes from Grays Harbor and Pacific counties go and play at the next level, and super happy for Maddie to see that she's been able to do that.
Absolutely.
As a
she
side
was one of
note-
my favorite players to watch for that Aberdeen team.
As a side note, we have a couple of Grays Harbor and Pacific County female hoopers who are playing Division I college basketball now. Kira Gardner playing at Washington State.
Wazoo, go
And
Cougs.
she's a sophomore now, and she is getting in the rotation.
Nice.
So I went back and checked her game log, and it looked like, you know, she's getting somewhere between 8 and 13 minutes most games.
Nice.
And she had one game earlier this season that she scored over 10 points. She's hit some threes. And then also McKinley Dalen from Monty.
Right, at
is
Minnesota.
Playing at Minnesota, and she is playing a few minutes here and there. She's a freshman, just coming in fresh to Division I basketball, so she's not playing a lot. But she did hit a three-pointer in one of the games earlier this season.
Nice.
So excited to see those girls playing at the top level of women's college basketball too. But Daniel, this is a kind of a tough choice for me because
I know who I'm leaning towards.
well, there's I think it's hard between these three basketball players, to be honest, because Kaysen, we watched it with our own eyes.
Yeah.
And he was great.
Yep.
And then but then at the same time, we didn't watch Jilly.
Right.
And her stat line's crazy. In that rivalry game, she had 24 points and 19 rebounds.
That's a lot.
Including 10 on the offensive glass. And then she turned around in the very next game. She played against the number 10 ranked 2A team in the state in White River.
Right.
And put up a double-double against them with 14 points and 11 boards.
Right.
So she's got the Escalator. She had a really great stat line. And then she also had another good game against a really good team a couple days later.
Right.
And then it's always fun to see players like Maddie Gore go and do something at a higher level and go, you know, drop 20 points in a college basketball game.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
There's always going to be the inherent bias of I watched that with my own eyes.
Right. Yeah, that's
So on
because that's where
Tuesday-
I was leaning.
On Tuesday, you would not have been able to convince me that someone besides Kaysen Seberg was going to be athlete of the week.
Yeah.
But if we're doing like a straight across comparison, you know, Kaysen had a great game. Kaysen's great game was 21 points. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then he had 18 in the next game when they lost to Tenino.
Yeah. On a bum ankle.
On a bum ankle. And Jilly had 24 points and 19 rebounds in the rivalry matchup.
Yeah.
And then turned around and had a double-double against one of the best 2A teams in the state on Thursday.
Right.
It's really hard.
It's not easy. It's a tough choice. Oh. The one downside for Jilly, neither of those games were competitive in both the win and the loss. Which, one of the games wasn't competitive because she was playing so awesome, so it's hard to falter for that.
But they also beat the
Whereas
second.
both of Kaysen's games were very competitive.
But the team that the Monty girls beat is the second place team in the league in Elma. They're 2-1 in league play.
That's
and
true.
Monty's 3-0.
Yeah,
And I totally all of those points are valid.
that's true. It's really tough.
It's hard because we have escalators in place, but they both have the escalator.
Yeah,
Because the escalator was rivalry matchup,
right.
and both of them were on the road
Yeah.
in a rivalry matchup. It's such a far trip too,
Yeah,
from Monty to Elma.
it's
So
such
far.
the trip there.
Yeah.
Well, would it be a rivalry trip if it was a far trip? Like, there's no distance. Is there a distance rivalry? Like, besides the NFC East, which is stupid. Because isn't Dallas in the NFC East?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dumb. It's like New York, Philadelphia, Washington, Dallas. What? But that's the only... Yeah, like, if you're going to have a rivalry, you're going to be kind of close.
Andrew, do you have thoughts here?
Do you have thoughts?
No.
Dang it. Andrew's been looking at other things.
So the other hard part is thinking back on.
I personally am leaning towards Kaysen.
Okay.
That's where I'm leaning towards. I know Jilly had a great week too. And I don't want to take anything away from that because she's been awesome all year and she had another awesome week. But I think Kaysen can be put in the same conversation with that. And to me, there's just something about the close game is another escalator. And I don't know why. And I'm not sure if it's a valid escalator. But to me, that both of his games were like down to the wire for some reason make it more important to me. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So for some reason, that's the tiebreaker for me. It's like everything else, they're like right even with each other. And then it's just like, oh, that last thing was he had that big time performance against competition that was like neck and neck, which is tough in the game that they won, you know.
I'd be willing to bet that if I had watched Monty and Elma girls,
Yeah.
I probably would come away from that going.
That's a good point.
Jilly was the reason why that happened.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have the inherent bias of
Yeah.
I watched Kaysen with my own eyes.
Yep.
And he was so good, and I hated it. I hated it so much. And so
Yeah.
if I have a tiebreaker in my head, it's about how much Kaysen ruined my day on Tuesday. Can an escalator be that Kaysen Seberg ruined my day on Tuesday?
It's an escalator for me.
Okay.
I feel like it's a de-escalator for you.
Okay. Well,
By the way, escalators, Anchor's favorite thing now. I took him to
he
Cabela's.
really likes the portions of stats that make somebody's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's his favorite thing. No, like the
Oh.
thing, like the moving stairs.
Oh.
Yeah, we took him to Cabela's, and all of the cool things that Cabela's had, he wanted to ride the escalator up and down over and over and over and over again.
What's at Cabela's? Like fishing poles?
Well, they have like this really cool like display of wildlife, like
They got a lot of
Tax-
stuffed animals.
like a
a lot
Zoo?
of like a taxidermy.
Oh.
But they also have a little aquarium where like there's actual fish swimming around that you can walk in and look at. And Anchor thought all those things were cool. But second to the escalators was sitting on the four-wheelers and acting like he was driving them. He loved that. But no, he just wanted to ride the escalator up and down. That was his favorite thing.
He didn't want to look at all the dead animals.
He did. He thought
Oh.
they were interesting, but
Okay.
not as cool as the escalator. He wasn't a fan of the elevator though, with the
Really?
glass window.
Huh.
He wasn't. He wanted. Yeah.
Was it like
I was
he
also-
didn't want to go towards the edge? Like I could kind of see
I think
that.
it
like-
startled him a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's this glass window, and all of a sudden we're like going up, and I think it was a little bit of a startling thing there. for
See,
him.
to me as a kid, I was much more scared of an escalator.
Right, because you might get stuck.
Well, that, and we probably had moms who were like, "Keep your clothes away from the edge because you're gonna get sucked in."
Right. What was with parents of our generation? It was always you're gonna get sucked in, you're gonna get sucked out, you're gonna get snatched by this, killed by that. I grew up terrified of everything.
Yeah.
I thought cougars were gonna kill me as I went to get firewood at night.
Well, it's probably
Did they?
a legitimate fear.
Probably.
Yeah. There's definitely cougars by your house.
So, I know who my vote's for.
I can't say it out loud.
You can't-
So
okay.
I'm gonna let you handle it.
All right. Our Spivey Athlete of the Week is Kaysen Seberg for his excellent performance in both of their games this week, but mainly for ruining Justin's Tuesday night. He had 21 points and at least 6 rebounds in the Elma Eagles' victory over the Montesano Bulldogs on Tuesday night. He also led the Elma Eagles with 18 points in their tight loss 2-9 later in the week. Kaysen Seberg, you are our Spivey Athlete of the Week. Congratulations. And again, thank you to Spivey Realty Group for the sponsorship of that award.
Yes.
Yes. You're just going to...
That's it.
Yeah. Is that going to do it for our show today?
I think so.
Okay. You can't talk anymore.
I'm just done. I'm just done.
So for my co-host, Justin, I'm just done. Kaysen Seberg ruined it for me. Damashevitz.
And my co-host Daniel, I was gonna get mauled by a cougar when I went outside at night, Hargrove.
And our producer, Andrew. Suck it, you dub. Gross.
I just don't know what money has ruined college football, guys, and I just discovered that this week.
As a neutral observer, side note,
Yeah.
I've always thought UW fans, again, I'm a neutral.
Right.
I've always thought UW fans carried themselves with a level of unearned self-importance. That they've always thought that we're one of those top-notch programs in the nation. We're a destination, blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
You're really not. You kind of never have been, and I'm sorry. And I don't dislike UW, but UW fans, I'm like, just simmer down a little bit there. You had a coach who did a great job. He went to a better place when he had the opportunity available to him. It's not about loyalty. He just took a better job, man. That's it.
Good night.
Good night.